if that couldn't have woken you up, we will not be able to do that. So let me just start with that. I think it's been a day of a lot of learning, a lot of understanding real use cases. We just had an excellent spotlight on how does one go about building it and the journey from a POC to a real product. What we attempt to do in the next 30 minutes or so is that we will bring to you what the leaders of any organization think about, their aspirations, their views of how and which use case really works for them, and take it from there. I'm going to start with what Broadridge is doing. At Broadridge, there are two products that we have right now come out with in the space of Gen AI. One is called Bond GPT, which was our first one in the in the space of Gen AI. This was something that we did for the US domestic market. We are very heavily into financial markets. And if you look at really from a company's perspective in the shares and the equities, you'll have 20,000 companies. So deriving data for 20,000 companies is easy. But if you're looking at a bond market, you're talking about 500,000, maybe more bonds. How do you consolidate that data and bring out personalized advice to your customers is something that Bond GPT does, and does it really, really well, really quickly. It's catching on. It has been the first product in the space to actually do something like that. Our other, what should I say, foray into Gen AI has been really the intranet version of ChatGPT. We call it Broad GPT. It allows us to do everything that ChatGPT does. It just stores the data internally and doesn't allow anybody else access to our own data. So it took us about the last 8 months to build it, something that has happened all the way internally in India, and it's just got launched last week. So very real practical use cases of the technology that we are talking about in our company. But I'm going to move on to the functions that we have here and how they are making it real for their company. Ganga, I'm going to start with you. Customers are the most important part of any business, right? Whatever we do, our money comes from the customers. And with you leading marketing and providing marketing solutions to customers, how does this technology enable you to be far better than yesterday?
Thanks, Sheenam. I think marketing is one of the ways by which all of us experience the brands that we like, that we buy into. And very, very simply put, the task of marketing is to position a product well in people's minds. I try not say customers or consumers, because finally we're all just talking to people like you and me. And how do we prompt them to buy not once, but again and again and again, buy the same product, buy different products, but really become loyal to a brand, right? I'm going to set aside some of the more behind-the-scenes work that marketing does, which is research, insight generation, persona creation, and talk about two things that are most visible to us as people. One is just the beautiful work that you see, right? The storytelling that a brand does, the creative work, whether it's print, digital, or on film. And the second is the way these messages come to us. Marketing is both an art and a science. I'll talk about the science of media planning almost first, because today with the kind of complexity that we see around us in the way people are able to toggle between devices, so many options, omni-channel marketing is also common. It's so important for us to get a message to the right person at the right time, on the right device, at the right place, so that they react to that trigger. And this is what predictive AI does, right? And I mean, people who are in analytics have been doing this for years now. Epsilon has had that for over 10 years. The second part is what you see when that trigger hits your device. And that's where Gen AI comes in, where you're able to create the right sort of, it's creative really, right? How do you create the right sort of images? So while there is a lot of hype on Gen AI, and of course I love it as a marketer because it helps you bring your ideas to life so much sooner, I really believe that Gen AI without predictive AI will not give you the right kind of ROI, right? So while Gen AI, of course, is on a hype cycle, the two need to be understood hand in hand for it to really make a difference and drive the ROI that marketing spends deserve.
I'm going to ask you a provocative question on that one, Ganga. Do you believe that if you don't adopt it fast enough, you're going to lose out on market share?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent.
Because the demands are so high on marketing today, right? Whether it's on time, cost pressures, whatever, you have to be, first out there. You have to be there out there as often as possible. And this is one of the best ways to do it.
Thank you. Thank you for being honest. The second pillar of any business is really finance, right? You get in the revenue, and then how do you manage it? You manage your top end, you manage your bottom end. So Sandhya, I'm going to come to you. How does this technology play for you in the finance world? How does it help you make your businesses far more successful?
Sure. First of all, I want to start with thanking the organizers for inviting me here, because people like me in these kind of forums have more moment, and a lot of it goes above head. LLM is a law degree, so, and then, so I don't know if I really deserve to be here, but so I'm very grateful to Samir and team. Having said that, I think when I joined, and then I want to talk about what we are doing in NH, maybe to make it a little more real. I was just fortunate that when I joined NH, there was already a very strong analytics practice, we call it meta analytics, and we were already doing a lot of work in the analytics space. And some of it we are building forward and using Gen AI to augment the analytics that we were doing. So for example, we already had deep exception monitoring analytics. So for example, I will get a report saying these are my consumption outliers, these are my revenue outliers, this is where revenue leakage is happening. So all of it was completely digitized. But now how we are able to enhance it is that we are able to, the computer can actually hit me on my head and say, wake up. In the sense that it is able to communicate with the leadership to say, these are your 5 exceptions. Because earlier, I had to go and look at some 160 dashboards and see what the exceptions were and take action, which I may or may not do. But now, what Gen AI is doing for us is it, of course, on the back end, it looks at whatever need to be looked at, and it says, look, in this unit, these are the 5 items which need your immediate attention. And that's really a game changer for me, because it simplifies the time that I take to go through all data. See, finance people are like mainframe computer. We like processing lot of complex data with multiple Excel sheets like that. So for us, this is like actually a Gen AI, conversational AI, which kind of, so that's one part. The second space where we are seeing a lot of application is in the legal space. We spoke about tax, but there is just ton of data, ton of contracts we deal with. There were capabilities earlier also where, there were systems that would really read and point out exceptions based on laws. It'll also learn what you are reading as exceptions. So those were all there. But now the advantage is that it is also able to suggest corrections. So we've looked at identified use cases on that. On the L&D space, there is a huge amount of work on the process SOP space. So finance is like the Amy in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. We like the folders, we like the, having multiple pages and process and SOPs. And that's, we wake up in the morning and think what SOP I will write today and make life even more difficult for business. So with that kind of, people like us, I think it is simplifying life for our business people, because now if somebody wants to say, how do I raise a CapEx proposal, they don't have to go to 5 people in finance who will give them 5 different versions of the SOP that they are not compliant with. The tool actually tells them, and so that's something that we've worked on. And there are many other areas like vendor help desk, like customer help desk. I really dread when, GPT will start doing accounting standards, because then I don't know, I can't boast that only I understand accounting standards and only I can interpret, and so listen to me. But there is like phenomenal application that we are able to see in finance.
That's superb, Sandhya. So basically what she's saying is that the technology is helping finance people not look bad any longer. The technology is doing the bad work.
Sure.
From that, I think we come to the 2 fundamental areas of any organization, right? Talent and IT. And I'm going to revert to you, Suresh. How does this help in better talent management, this technology, right? We're seeing the millennials, the Gen Zs, and I think there's now Alpha. The next generation is called Alpha, is what I'm told. So all of these generations that are coming in, they want to adopt future technologies, but we continue to work on technologies like mainframes. So how do you kind of build that balance, and how is this technology helping the HR function?
It's almost like going back to my exams. You prepare for everything, and that one thing that you don't, that one chapter you miss is the one that you get asked about. So at least on a panel, you have a chance to say something about it and maybe take one more question and answer that. Coming back, my personal view, like anything else which has been changing in human evolution, this is also a change. There is a lot of, thanks to social media, doomsday prediction, job losses, and everything is going to change and you will not be relevant anymore. Possibility is certainly there, but it all depends on how do you help your talent? How do you help yourself first as a talent stay relevant, and how do you help in the organization? So there, coming from a mechanical engineering background, I can't but go back to what's been happening in saying that, I mean, we are at I 4.0, Industry Revolution 4.0, and it's taken us some 100 years. Humans are still there, technology has changed, jobs are there, but the nature of jobs change. So I have a deep faith that the ability to survive for each human being and each employee, first they themselves will be responsible and take the initiative in saying, what do I have to do to stay relevant? If I look at my daughters, I don't give advice because I don't know how to give advice. They know far better. Incidentally, my daughter is also in analytics, as to what jobs sell and what do I need to stay relevant. So from a technology perspective, I would say there's enough master classes which are going on. So it would be a bit presumptuous, but I'd just like to quickly touch upon leadership competence, which can make a bigger impact. And say, my take is the classical competence of curiosity leading to innovation or emotional intelligence, with empathy being a big part of it, change management remain. It's just applied on a different scale. But two things, one obvious one, of course, AI literacy is required at all levels, my role too, at whatever age or stage you are. So that's a given. The second one is something I personally believe in. Perhaps last week I was with the Tata Foundation, very deeply into tribals and community, still have a bit of influence of that. It's something I would say, leading with humanity. How do you foster technology, foster your talent, but inculcate doing it in a humane manner, whatever that means to each of the organizations, are two things I'd call out. So one, AI literacy, other than the classical parts applied to you. And the second one is bringing in a grounded, humane way of leading organizations and change is going to make a difference.
Beautifully said, Suresh. So I'm going to hold you on that point and come back again before I go to Prem. Prem, we're talking technology, right? And as the CIO of your company, what does this technology and this advent of this new technology mean to you in your role?
Sure. Once again, thanks for this opportunity. If you look at IT evolution, it started off with ERP systems, maybe 1970s, 1980s. Then we had web applications. Then we had cloud computing, mobile apps, everything. As an head of IT, my job was always develop systems and applications to my customers, sales functions, finance functions, or HR functions, and enable them to do business more efficiently. However, in this particular case, in the Gen I world, I'm in a sweet spot because I get to do projects for my customers, which is the internal functions or external, B2B customers, and I get to do projects for myself. So this is a big question, and there are a lot of LinkedIn posts going on. Will the IT developers' job go away with AI? AI can write code, it can debug code, it can make a developer's job redundant. My take on this is like this. 10, 15 years ago, when I was doing programming, we used to follow method called pair programming. So instead of one person writing and code, actually 2 people will sit and code. And each one will challenge the other one. The final outcome was not 2x, but it was 4x, 5x better in terms of quality, in terms of efficiency of the code, in terms of maintainability and everything else. So AI can do the same thing, right? It can be a good partner for a developer where it can challenge each other and final outcome could be better. So my take is that job is not going to go away, but the final outputs are going to be better. However, you have to keep in mind that the code written by AI is based on certain parameters. How to use that in your specific context, in your business problem you are trying to solve, that is only a human can do. So, it is only going to enhance the value an IT professional will typically add to the business, and it's only going to get better. So IT actually can improve efficiency for themselves as well as for the business functions.
Thank you. So essentially, we've heard the human side, we've heard efficiency. I'm going to stay with you, Prem. We've heard a lot about, I don't trust this technology, right? Is it secure enough? Will my data remain private? Do you have views on that?
Yes, definitely. Data security, privacy, it has always been a challenge, especially in a country like India, where we had taken everything for granted. Compared to Western world, we never had a data protection law until now, which is currently in draft status. See, the testing, I'll give answers in 2 different levels. One, you can't trust the piece of code what is written by Gen AI. So you have to develop your testing efforts. What algorithm it is using, what data it has used, that you have to take care. So that is the prime focus. Second, you have to be careful what you are inputting into Gen AI in terms of prompts and everything else. Let us take, for example, you have an IP related source code, which is very, very critical. For example, I come from a manufacturing world, and we have IoT solutions. So some of those IoT solutions are highly IP protected. So we have to be very, very careful when we are putting that code, exposing it to Gen AI. Let us say you have an algorithm which calculates the price based on various criteria. Do you want to put your pricing algorithm into the world? So those are the questions which we have to ask, and security has become even more important in this Gen AI world.
Do you also want to touch upon how you identify these use cases that you've been talking about?
Basically, we start with a very, straightforward, simple to implement use cases. I'll give an example. We are into B2B business. FANUC is into B2B business. We have close to 2 lakh install base. That means we have 2 lakh machines in India, which are up and running, which is helping the entire manufacturing world. So many of those machines are, run on assembly lines. Let us say Maruti Suzuki's assembly line. Even, a minute of outage can cause disruption to Maruti Suzuki. So when that machine goes down, our service engineer goes, and he has very limited time to fix the problem and make the assembly line up and running. Now imagine a situation where he goes and tries to find the problem, then he finds that, hey, spare part is not with me. I have to change a part, I have to change a connector, I have to change a fuse, I have to change a belt. It is not with me. Then he has to go all the way back to our warehouse and then get that particular part. Imagine that part is not available in the warehouse. He has to maybe get it shipped from other country or other location and use it. So here we are using AI, where based on the problem description, based on the alarms, the engineer who is he is already having a knowledge about what part he should carry. So he carries those spare parts with him, goes there, if it is required, he'll replace and come back. So basically this reduces our turnaround time, multiple days, and a customer doesn't always like multiple visits. Same engineer coming 3 days, but still the problem is not fixed. But here, first time visit itself, the problem is solved. So these are some of the use cases we are building on. So always my look at it is, easy targets, easy to implement our customer facing areas. Some, IP or complex areas like, finance, pricing, we can take it later.
Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Thanks a lot. I'm going to come back to your point, right, about leadership competence. The world has changed in the last 4 years. We've seen COVID, I don't know how many times in the world we've used resilience in the last 4 years. Empathy has become a very, very strong word. Now with Gen AI coming in, the need to adapt to new gen technology with a mindset change, how are we, through the talent function, enabling that?
See, the basics still remain the same if you're talking about leadership. So anything which changes in the environment, in this case a technology, you need to understand the possibilities, you need to understand the challenges, and maybe to a certain extent the limitations. Limitations, I don't mean the technological limitations, more so the human limitations as to what can it do, which is an unintended bad consequence for society, joblessness or any other things which we don't want to have. So from that perspective, I would say the fundamentals remain. And in this case too, it's all a question of whether you applied for talent management as a process, whether you applying it to learning and development in order to build competence. Ultimately, it goes back to the role of a leader in terms of what is a balanced strategy. And here, again, at the cost of repetition, I'd say, I firmly believe that it's the role of the leadership to strike the right balance between the possibilities which help business to be faster, better, cheaper, and the human aspect. And the human aspect is something I feel we need to call out more and more, not just because I have a role of HR at this point in time, but that really can be the differentiation between a good organization and a great organization.
Excellent. So when we talk about that, I think what comes to mind is really mindset and culture, right? Organizations prosper on a very good culture, on an excellent culture. And when technologies like this get introduced, there is a fear. And the possibility that that fear eats into your culture is very high. So Sandhya, I'm going to turn to you and ask you, how does one, as a leader like you in the organization, not just a finance leader, help rejuvenate the culture?
Sure. See, inspired by the 3 AI tag, I'm going to talk about 3 Ws. In terms of culture, the first W is walk the talk. So I joined my organization, it was around December time when I joined, and for finance people, the last 5 days and the first of the quarter and the first 5 days of the quarter is a very, very important time. You're like the most sought after person. Everyone is calling you, what happened to your numbers, where did we finish, all that, you really feel very important. And it was my first quarter end and nobody called. I mean, I was like, what is wrong with this company? Is no one interested in knowing where the numbers ended? Why is no one calling? But really that the Meta analytics which we had was so penetrated in the organization, starting from the senior most leadership, that everyone used to access their data on the BI. Even now, all our reviews are on the BI. Nobody circulates any Excel sheets. There are no PPTs in our organization. Everything is on the BI. And that only comes when everybody across and starting from the leadership at the top. So if someone were to call me, it's easy to call Sandhya and find out where I finished the number. Then that culture is never going to come. So that's the first W. The second W is why not? The wanting to experiment. Why not try something? Why not fail? Why not do different things? And the third W really is what next? The journey is never over. There is always something new and there is always something to try. And so we as leaders have to keep challenging ourselves on what next.
Excellent. Ganga, do you want to add to that?
I'll add to that from a marketing perspective. One, because I'm a marketer, and two, because Epsilon is a marketing company, right? We enable marketers to do their jobs better. So apart from what you said in terms of, the underlying culture, I think as marketers, it's so important to be creative and to be excited about big ideas, right? And if you're not a creator, whether it's in the old world or the new world, there is no place in marketing. You're just a passenger, right? And therefore, for people to recognize the joy of being able to create, not just for ourselves when we're fighting, say, industry trends like deprecation of third-party cookies, and therefore the importance of first-party data and things like that, it's also important for us to make our clients see that and feel excited about the future, right? So it's a culture that we believe in and what we're also able to translate to marketers outside who buy our platforms and work with it.
So build internally, build also externally. Excellent note. I'm going to end this by giving you guys one sentence answer option only, okay? If there was one aspiration that you had from this technology, what would that be? One sentence each. Okay.
I want the old world, ultra creative people to meet the new world of technology where so much is possible.
Beautiful. Suresh.
Maybe I'm sticking to my role. I would resort to a Sanskrit phrase of Sarve Jano Sukhino Bhavantu. Ultimately, let it make everyone happy.
Perfect.
So I want a CFO to be called Chief Future Officer and not a Chief Financial Officer.
Wonderful. And we'll end with technology.
Okay. I would say more techie answer, right? Traditionally, we all have been talking about customer 360, but it's all about transactions. How many orders, how many inquiries, how many invoices, what is pending, outstanding, stuff like that. But I think we can add emotions also to this. How did the customer react? What was his tonality? What was his emotions when he spoke on the phone last time, or when he attended an online meeting last time? So with the AI tools, you can capture all that, right? He was angry, he was agitated, or he didn't show interest. Initially, he showed interest. Now his interest is coming down. So you could add that angle also into your customer 360 view.
Thank you. So wonderfully said. I think, and summary of the aspirations that we heard, get emotions into the tool. So if anybody is listening, startups, Samir, that's what this panel is asking for. I'm going to open this panel up for questions. We can possibly take a couple of questions from the audience if anybody has a question for us.
We need to have at least 4 or 5 questions coming up, okay? Otherwise, this panel is going to get extended now.
I usually do this, right? I say, I'll give you 3 tick-ticks. And generally that works, right? Tick-tick 1.
Yes,
yeah,
see, the tick-tick 1 worked.
So mine is a very fundamental question, right? It's been lingering in my mind for a while. So Gen AI is basically generating the next word or an image based on a training data set. Now, in the future, as we generate more content, and that is a lot, the share of the generated content online is going to go up. Does it also mean that the quality of the generated content in the future will diffuse over time? That is one question that I have.
Who wants to take that?
I can take that.
Yeah.
So you're right in saying that it learns from existing data sets, and that's where I think our worry about will humans become redundant goes away, right? Because it's so important for us to keep track of the biases that can creep in. Is a successful surgeon only male? Is a good-looking baby only Caucasian, right? So how do we make sure that these sort of biases don't creep in? How do we keep track that new sets of data are constantly being trained is what will safeguard our future, really.
But what a beautiful question, man. What a beautiful... Give her a round of applause, Something that not everybody wants to ask.
If I may just add to that answer, I think the nature of the content is only going to get better because you're going to start learning what works, what doesn't work, right? And if I go back to what Prem said, the art of pairing with Gen AI and with the technology, I think that human-machine balance is only going to help us become better as we move on.
Okay, all right. So one more question, just the final question there, quickly.
Hey, this is Naveen Raj again from Morgan Stanley. My opinion is, yes, Gen AI is going to take my job, but I'm going to do something better. So let's say the same for all the 5 of you, right? What would you want to do if Gen AI takes your job? I mean, to set an example, I would become a musician. What would you do? What would you want to become?
I'll become a Gen AI consultant.
I'll spend more time on my bike.
I'll become a storyteller, which is what marketing does.
I'll ask that question to Gen AI itself.
I think I'll continue to keep my job with Gen AI. I am not so pessimistic.
What would you do if you lose your
for
job?
other reasons, like non-performance, incapability, inefficiency, all that. But I don't think Gen AI will take my job.
Let's just say Gen AI takes away your job. What would you do? Singer? Fantastic. I think we're going to make you sing a little later. You let the cat out of the bag. But give them a round of applause to both the people who asked questions. And over to you, ma'am, for...
Thank you. I think, sorry?
No, yes. No. We have something else coming up now, but I just wanted her to summarize all.
Yeah, so I think the summary is going to be done by Ranjini, so I'm going to invite her. Before that, I would want to thank each one of my panelists for being such wonderful storytellers, going back to you, Ganga, but just being candid about sharing your experiences, about what is important to you. I think we've left the audience with some very good insights about our functions and what we want to do in the future.